Whew. Sorry, I'm a little late. Apologize. Was out doing a little solo sail here on being by myself, keeping my social distance. But I made it, and I'm happy you did too. My name is Chris Charbonneau. I'm the associate publisher of SpinSheet magazine. And you might be asking yourself, well, what does an associate publisher actually do? Well, let me tell you. But first, let me take off my Mustang Sea Survival PFD hydrostatic inflatable with the harness. It's never too big. You can't be too safe out there, but make sure you always do wear that. See, it's my job as associate publisher to work mainly closely with the sales team and our advertisers to make sure that their logos and their support for SpinSheet is promptly seen. In times of, well, obviously in the magazine, on the website, or any special events that we do. And so I just make sure that, whenever we do things for our advertisers, that they can basically get the exposure that they need. But there's never really an endless supply of advertisers. So anytime we can do a product placement, or do a small mention, maybe editorially, or basically just be good stewards for the people that support us. Now, there may be a lot of people tuning in today that aren't necessarily from the Chesapeake Bay or not that familiar with SpinSheet. So I just wanted to maybe give you a little idea of who we are and what we do. So SpinSheet is the largest media outlet to sailors of the Chesapeake Bay. No one else does it like we do. And through our printed magazine, we reach well over 25,000 people each month. This is a free newsprint magazine. It's given out at all the yachting clubs, at regattas, at your favorite coffee shop and liquor store. It's all over the place. But you can not only read it online, read it in print, but you can also read it online. If you go to SpinSheet.com, you can go to our digital issue, and you'll see a flipbook version of the exact same thing. It's awesome. Of course, you can explore our website while you're there. It has many of the same articles that are in here and some extras. You can obviously follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or our YouTube channel. We have a lot of different ways we can help out our advertisers and actually engage with you, our fans. Today we're going to be with Quantum Sales, and they've been with us pretty much since the beginning. And SpinSheet's been around for 25 years, this year actually. Now that I've kind of gotten the busy work done, I'm going to now switch gears, and I'm no longer the associate publisher, but I am now your virtual bartender for this talk. Now, I'm going to bring Molly Winans on here in a second. She's our editor of SpinSheet and managing editor for actually all the publications that we do. We'll have Geoff Ewenson, pro sailor, also known as the cancer of productivity in our office. And, of course, Dave Flynn from Quantum Sales. They're going to be talking about what makes good crew members. So hold on one second. I'm done with all the shameless promotions. Except I am going to make myself a drink. Let me just kind of do some housework here. There we go. My drink of choice, and I'm going to be asking everybody when they come on, is a dark and stormy. Now, I've never had one of these before, but I hear they're delicious. By the way, if you're a beverage company and you're interested in doing any kind of sponsorship, we have a thing called the Century Club. It's our way to celebrate those sailors that get out on the water for 100 days each year. This is the winning virgin that you get when you become part of the Century Club. I suggest you maybe email chris@spinsheet.com, and we can go over some details about how you might be able to do that. That's delicious. You're right. That is a good drink. Hold on now. Let's we're gonna get this show started, and I'm gonna bring in Molly here. Let's see, Molly. Hold on. You're on audio only, Molly. Can you turn on your camera?
This was my processing.
I don't know. So I think this goes without saying, folks. I'm going to screw this up. I'm the AV guy behind all of this, and for whatever reason, Molly is not coming up. There she goes, and there she's not. Now you're muted, and you have no camera. Nice. No.
You guys will love it. But,
all right. Sorry, folks. We're gonna. No. Okay, everybody, you need to turn on your cameras and oh, wait a second. There we go.
Hey, there we are. That's fantastic.
I think maybe that's not
we're never going to get started.
I think maybe that's not Chris's first
Good thing we're
dark-n-stormy
drinking.
of the day.
Yeah, good thing we're drinking.
By the way,
sorry, folks. Well, let me just do a quick introduction. Over to my side is Molly Wyans, managing editor of SpinSheet magazine. Right below me is Dave Flynn from Quantum Sales, and diagonally from me is Geoff Ewenson, pro sailor. And I don't, what do I say about you? Anyway, so Molly, let me just ask you really quick before I go behind the scenes. What are you drinking?
I'm having a fruity rum drink because I thought the theme of this was sort of under the regatta tent with Dave and Geoff, and I'm having it in this 20th anniversary SpinSheet cup, and it happens to be Mount Gay rum, in case you're wondering.
Oh,
and,
well, you know,
and for those folks watching from their own homes, their own hidey holes, wherever we are, these guys here are guys who I have had happy hour with many times, and hopefully will many more times. So I'm psyched to be hanging out with them, and wherever you are, I'm glad you joined us. And
yes.
So how about you, David Flynn? What are you drinking?
Well, Molly, one thing you have to learn about cocktails is they need to be served in proper glasses.
Wow.
Plastic just doesn't quite cut
That
it.
is not a regatta tank glass,
Well,
David.
this is a margarita with a really nice tequila recommended by our friend Robert Rosenbach. I highly recommend them. Simple, 4 parts tequila, 2 parts lime juice, 1 part agave. That's it. Works well.
And Geoff Ewenson, show us what you got.
I'm following along with the margarita mode, and what's really nice is when the publisher of SpinSheet magazine is home and can be a good little barmaid and make the barmaid. And that's so rare.
Wow, you're going to get in trouble.
This is one of those sort of quarantine moments. You'll never hear that again.
For those of you who don't know, Geoff is married to the owner and publisher of SpinSheet magazine, so you're going to be in trouble.
Nepotism is everywhere.
That's right. Well, I'm gonna bow out of here, guys, really quick. And I'm like I said, I'm gonna screw this up. I apologize to begin with.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, Molly, take it away.
All right. So before, let's see, am I still on my screen here? All right. So before we start actually talking about sailboat racing, which is what everybody came here for, Dave, if you will start by just giving give us a 1-minute intro to you as a pro sailor, and you know what your job is when your customers hire you on a boat.
Well, really,
how long have you been at this, etc.
Well, really, I'm a failed lawyer and a doctor and all the other things that my mother wanted me to be. And so I've spent the last 30 years of my life, or more at this point, trying to make a boat go, you know, 1/10 of a knot or 2 faster all the time. And that usually ends up for me being the role of kind of onboard coach, seeing eye dog, things like that. I've been lucky enough to sail one design stuff mostly for the last 30 years. So I've sat next to a lot of drivers and said, up, 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 no, down, 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 straight, that would be good. Right. So I've been a coach essentially for the last 30 years, more than anything else, and gotten to do some great sailboat racing in the process.
Excellent. And Geoff, how about you?
I have been, I guess, a pro sailor since I graduated from college. I first worked for a sailmaker and then left being a sailmaker to pursue an Olympic campaign. And from that, got second in the Olympic trials and just went into being a pro sailor, not specifically working for any one loft, but really working for the different boats that I've been lucky enough to be on a team with.
Mm-hmm. Well, you both have pretty cool lives. It's I'm usually hearing about what awesome adventure you're coming back from, but I don't often really pick your brains about what you learn out there on the water. And I think you have so much valuable stuff to teach people who are crews. So I'm going to jump right into it. And because I assume the people who are watching are either our goofball friends or someone who actually would like to learn something about becoming a better crew member. So let's start with David. What kind of mental attitude do you think that a good crew person brings along with them on the boat?
Ooh, well, I say that the quick and simple thing is it's really nice when they show up on time on a regular basis. I mean, there is no substituting for the fact that, if you want it badly enough and can be counted on, that's a really good first start. I have an old friend, Bill Gladstone, who actually directs North U, who always said that good crews are not found, but they're made. And so I'd rather have the raw material of somebody who just really wants to do it, and not necessarily, it's nice if they have a skill set, of course, but a lot of that can be trained if they just are willing to dedicate the time to it.
Okay. Geoff, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think, Dave's correct. Showing up at the appropriate time. And then, we all do sailing for fun. Some of us do it for a living as well, but I think that at its core, it's still fun. I think, though, that having the attitude that when you get to the boat, sure, you want to say, hey to everybody. Let's say it's a Wednesday night. You show up down to the boat. You want to say hello to everybody as they arrive, but at the same time, know that you're going sailing, and there's some preparation that needs to get done in order to be ready to go sailing. So if you are part of the front of the boat, maybe you are putting the sheets up and stringing the boat together. If you are the pit person, you're probably in charge of, we'll call it down below, minister of the interior, we like to say, and maybe you would take the offside trimmer with you and just make sure that the sails are where they ought to be, and where the light jib is versus the medium jib, and which spinnaker you're more likely to have ready to go, things like that. And if you're the primary trimmer or mainsail trimmer, I think it's your job to make sure that the rig is set up correctly. So you look at, you might ask what the weather forecast is, and you go ahead and make sure that the rig is set to whatever you're expecting it to be. And then if you're the driver or the tactician, you can be in the sort of, let's talk about what kind of a general picture we're looking at. If it's, for instance, in Annapolis and it's going to be an evening southeasterly sea breeze, chances are it's probably 5 to 8, maybe 10 knots and sort of a slow oscillating shift. So you're probably looking at what the current is doing would be a big factor. Whereas if it's a northwesterly, that tends to be a very sort of volatile, shifty condition. And while current comes into play, it's more being able to react quickly to the shifts. And so just discussing that amongst yourselves and then relaying that to the team when as you're heading out, the boat's already been strung up and ready to go. You have sort of a crew meeting and you say, okay, this is what we expect for the day. So
I think that what Geoff is saying here, Molly, too, is comes down to one of my 3 fundamental tenets of being a good crew person. It's a general, it's taking initiative. So people love it when you come down and you don't have to tell them what to do. I'm going to go get the spinnaker pack. We know we need to get the boat ready to go sailing. Having that sort of attitude. This is, oddly enough, this is a sport, which means it takes preparation and all that kind of thing, and it does take some effort. And yeah, we're just out there for Wednesday night, but put in a little extra effort to make sure it goes smoothly and we don't have a disaster. Well, that will go a long way.
So I'm just looking at the chats here, and Ed Furry of Sail 22 just had a great little blurb there. Listen, watch, always pay attention to other ways of doing things, and that's that probably happens. If something didn't go quite right on the bow, as an example, you might go into the yacht club at the end of the evening and pull the bowman from one of the other teams and say, hey, when this happens, what do you think? How do you run through it? And one of the things that I really like about sailing, especially in classes like the Viper class that my wife and I sail in, there's a lot of communication between teams on how things are best done. And I think that that goes to another question here. How can I make my Viper go faster? Ask the people who beat you, I guess, would be the answer to that. But so just generally, one of the things that's really nice about sailing is it is an open sort of communication within the team and between teams. And I think, I know I'm sort of flattered when somebody asks me a question, hey, how do you do something? I think it's, I definitely think that's one of the nice things about the sport of sailing.
Yeah. Let's talk about, I see you guys, I go into Annapolis Athletics sometimes and I see you guys with your trainer. And I know that the physical aspect of it is big for you, that your job is a physical job. And so can we talk about physical skills, what the place for physical skills are and how they factor into overall crew? And that could be by, after guard to bow. I know there are different things needed there, but if you just discuss that, you want to start, Dave?
Yeah, well, part of the reason I have to work out so much now is I'm getting old and I'm aging out of the process. And it's much harder when you're sailing with, 30 and 40-year-olds and whatever, who are basically in better shape than you are. So yeah, you got to work harder as you get older for sure. That's why you see me at the gym all the time. But, obviously there are places for physical skills, strength, things like that on a sailboat. But oddly enough, other than the fact that you need to be kind of at the right weight for a boat, every boat has a right number of people on it. And when one design is usually defined by a weight limit, we all starve once a month and make a weight limit kind of thing. But the amount of physical strength required, yes, it's nice to occasionally have, especially on bigger boats, somebody who's really big and strong. But usually what wins out is technique. And so I'd rather have somebody who's fast and agile, as opposed to somebody who's big, brawny, and is bullying their way into the china shop. And that's where I find women are great, especially if they're taught good technique. They tend to be faster, quicker, more agile, and make a great blend on a team. So yeah, strength is nice, but it's not everything.
Geoff, what are your thoughts on the physical aspect of?
Yeah, I think there's definitely some boats that that big and strong is sort of the way to go. But I think in general, Dave's absolutely right. The strength to weight ratio is something that you really consider a lot. And I know personally, I got given a little bit of a hard time for one of the teams that I sail on. One of my very good, funny talking friends said, you know, as the navigator, you probably shouldn't be the biggest guy on the boat. But if you are the biggest guy on the boat, you might want to be the strongest guy on the boat so that when you help out grinding, it's worth something. So that's why I go to the gym. I don't want the Kiwi guys to give me too much of a hard time. But yeah, I think strength to weight ratio and agility, as Dave said, you know, somebody that can pop into the boat really quickly, get the job done, and pop right back to the rail. I think that's huge. And so one of the teams that I sailed on when I was a very young guy, we had a few, we called them deck plants, and you know, they were good for a lot of things, but getting the boat around the race course wasn't necessarily one of their biggest strengths. So I think not being a deck plant. Jacob Vick says, can't I be both fat and agile? Yeah, look at a lot of, sorry to my Star Crew friends, but look at a lot of Star Crews. They're both fat and agile. We're not baseball players though, so you can't be super successful generally by being a big fat guy.
So if you guys don't mind if I interrupt the flow of the conversation we have, because we have a question coming in from the outside, and maybe we can just go ahead and address it now. It's what your thoughts might be on growing a one design. No pros, some pros, restriction. Well, there are lots of questions there, but let's start with this first one. What are some of your thoughts on growing a one design fleet?
I have a technical question. Can everybody online see what that picture is?
We know Ned Thompson.
Yeah, we know Ned Thompson, but I want to know if everybody in their response could just type in who they think that is. I know who it is. So that's a great question. I had the chance this winter to work with the New York Yacht Club's new one design fleet, and that is strictly amateurs. The one exception being the paid boat captain. And I think that's a really neat avenue to explore. I think that is a growing group, and that's pretty cool. I think some classes sort of thrive with a pro limit. There are very few avenues to be, yes, Jacob Vick, it is Paul Newman. There are very few avenues to be just a full pro team. You know, if you're not doing the America's Cup or the TP52s, then there really aren't a whole lot of other venues for strictly pro sailing. So I think that the reality is sailing is a pro-am game. And the role that Dave plays typically is to help people make their boats go faster. And he does it through selling them the best sails he can sell them. I sort of, when I am sailing on a pro-am team, I try to work with the whole group and act as almost like a golf pro or a tennis coach, and make people a little bit more aware of how they can make the boats go faster. Dave, what do you think?
Well, it is a complicated question. And we actually, Molly, in your question list, you'll see it very at the bottom one I suggested getting into this pro sailors, where do we fit in thing. And I thought we should almost reserve an entire conversation for it, because it's been a big issue for as long as I've been since 1995, when we invented pro sailors. Remember, before that, they didn't exist. There was no categorization system. I think there's two things here. One is that if the sport were bigger, it would be easier. You know, a pro sailor would have a venue with pure pros, but we only have a tiny slice of our community and our racing potential to do that. So the reality is, as Geoff said, it's going to be a pro-am thing. And then, so how do you want your pros to fit in? Well, a lot of people who sail competitively and successfully one design think that their place is as coaches, mentors. They love to go. I mean, it's kind of like golf. if I could go golfing with a registered PGA pro on a regular basis, I would give my eye teeth to do it, right? It would be an opportunity. But in sailing, we've characterized professionals as pariahs, right? They ruin the sport for everybody. They make it terrible. And I think that's a real problem. I mean, I think that we should look to our professional sailors as much like PGA Tour professionals are, the teachers and leaders of our sport that are going to bring it on and make it grow and help it out. Now, if boats want to have, or classes want to have limits on the number of professionals, and they want to try to level the playing field by doing that, good luck. It's been tried now for the last 30 years with varying degrees of success.
Eye cooker.
Yeah, but oddly enough, you look at the classes that have been most successful, the ones that are lifelong. I mean, classes like the Starboat, there's no limits on professionals.
Yeah.
You just have to be good. You know, it's just the way it is. And even classes like the J70, which have developed recently, they've thrown out some of the classic things that have supposedly been must-dos for one design, limiting the number of pros and a weight limit. Hey, whatever you want. We're not going to weigh you. If you guys want to weigh 900 pounds, congratulations. It may not be fast, but you can do it. So I guess every time we try to impose rules that have a certain level of artificiality too, right? I mean, the way we categorize pro sailors is frankly silly. I mean, it's not where you work. It's will somebody actually pay you to go sailing? But I think it's easier to not develop rules that essentially make it so you want to cheat. Just kind of leave things open. And look, all classes are not going to be for everybody. If you want pure amateur sailing, there are venues for that, like the IC37, J105, things like that. And they work for a given group of people. But I think it becomes tougher to grow the sport, which is Ned's question, when you try to pace relatively artificial criteria that just make it harder for everybody to go sailing. And I think we have to learn that our professionals, we should task them with growing the sport and helping to teach people how to be better sailors. That should be what they do.
Let's get back. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
That was my diatribe. You set me off on that one because that's
okay. Hey, this is supposed to be a conversation, not a linear thing. So let's get back to talking a little bit about crew and what kind of different crew mix would you want to have for, say, a short course race as opposed to distance racing? You guys have opinions on that, on just sort of different crew mix for different types of racing?
You want to kick this one off, Dave?
Well, yeah, Geoff and I have talked about this a lot. And so in an inshore race, you can have a variety of skill levels, and it's a much better teaching medium, right? So you can have somebody who's less experienced that can be in the middle of the boat and learning from the people around them about how to be a great pit person, how to be a good bow person, how to trim, whatever. Mm-hmm. Distance racing is tougher because there, first of all, you're putting your life in your hands of others, and the thing is, to do it well, when I'm putting a distance racing team together, if we have 10 people in the crew, I want 9 great drivers and trimmers and a bowman per person who's good, and all the people who can drive and trim can probably, do the pit for the minute, and get sails up and down, that kind of thing. But in terms of making the boat go fast 24 hours a day, there is no substitute for drivers and trimmers. That's what you need. So you skew the whole crew mix to another end of the spectrum. I mean, and the best thing you can do, and this is hard to do at a normal amateur level, but Geoff and I have been part of some programs where we did a transatlantic together on a boat called Zarafa, where we had arguably 10 or 12 of the best professionals going. We weren't
part of that 10 or 12.
No, we were pretty far down the list. We were the junior drivers, and we got assigned a senior driver, so we didn't get ourselves in too much trouble. But the beauty of that was, I mean, you could go down below and go to sleep, and it's like, there's 10 people up there, a lot better than I am. I'm good to go. Where it's much harder, where if you're the sort of senior sailing talent on the boat, then you got your hands full and you don't sleep much and it's a miserable race. So I think there's a huge difference I think inshore races are for learning. Offshore races are for bringing as much talent as you can find if you want to do well.
Geoff, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of people in passing just say, oh, what do you like more, inshore or offshore? It's like, what do you like more, dinghy or big boat? And I sort of view them as the same sport, but different in a lot of ways. I think that Dave is absolutely right. Inshore is a good place to learn. Inshore, I sort of see as there's a lot of specialty positions. You know, you'll break down, say, a 30-footer, and you'll have a bowman and a mast man and a trimmer and an offside trimmer and a main trimmer and a driver and a tactician and maybe somebody doing the backstay if you're on a boat like a CNC 30. And your job is very, very specific. Whereas Dave said, in an offshore environment, nothing needs to happen immediately. And so the big factor there is, do you have enough people to drive the boat and trim the sails that you can have a good rotation and keep the boat working at a high level? And then, since very few drivers and trimmers ever want to call themselves bowmen, you bring a couple bowmen too, because they're the crazies who go to the front of the boat in the crazy conditions and make all the magic happen up there. So, you know, I think that that being able to figure out, what is it that you like? Do you like the adventure side of things, and you know, maybe you're more of an offshore sailor? Or do you like the quick and competitive nature of an inshore, say, one design, or an inshore perf race that ends in, you know, half hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, and then you get on to the next one? And what kind of a person are you? Like, that's how you figure out where maybe your role is within the game.
Are you a marathon runner, or do you like sprinting? Because doing distance racing well as a crew, it's the marathoner attitude. There's a lot of misery to it, right? You're going to be cold, uncomfortable, out of sleep. I don't really find it, I don't know why I've done it so much, but I don't really find it all that much fun, because it's a lot of just pain for the whole thing. And remember, Geoff, you were a great bowman when you were 19, right?
And when I was 175 pounds.
Oh, so you weigh 5 more pounds than that now, maybe.
Oh, right.
So let's for the skippers out there listening, what is some of the role of oh, that's not what I wanted to ask. What's the role as a skipper in developing a good crew? I know that's a broad question, but there it is.
Geoff, you want to start, or should I?
Yeah, I'll start on this.
You look like you had a couple of ideas there, I thought.
Well, I think the biggest characteristic, and this goes a little bit to a question that I see on the right here, although in a little bit different way. I think the best characteristic of a skipper is having sort of a calm communication and a calm demeanor. And so, Mark Bandy, I think maybe that answers your question. Somebody that is not calm tends to be an undesirable skipper. You know, you want somebody in this day and age, you want somebody that's calm and cool and collected and has a sense of sort of authority, that they maybe a gravitas that they bring to the table, whether that's on our boat or anywhere else. And so I think a skipper that can communicate in a way that is not yelling, not screaming, it's just simple and concise. I think that you know, that's probably the most desirable aspect of a good skipper. And I think to take that a little bit beyond that, I've sailed with plenty of people who are they're direct, maybe not the nicest communicators, but you certainly know what it is that they want. And I think a good crew has the ability to sort of accept that things maybe are a little abrupt and concise at some points, and they don't take it too seriously.
Yeah, I think that.
Anything to add, Dave?
Yeah, I think that as a potential crew who's trying to break into the thing and wants to work hard, has the right attitude and all that, if you get in a boat with a yeller and a screamer, get off immediately. Because what yelling and screaming tells you basically is that they don't have control over the situation. They don't have the skill set or competency to be able to look forward and anticipate, teach, help, all that stuff. They're always going to be flailing. The other thing that all the teams that I've been a part of over the years, there's an undying loyalty to a skipper who treats you well. And, I can tell you, one of the first big boat programs I ever, when I first moved to Annapolis, and this is when winches were kind of a new thing to me, and I was like, oh boy, big boat, cool. And the owner shall remain nameless, but if he makes you bring your own lunch and gives you a T-shirt at the boat when you get there, and then asks for it back when you leave, I wouldn't know that guy a whole lot. I don't know. I just breaking up on this. There's got to be better ways to do this whole thing. Whereas so many great skippers that I've sailed with over the years just have a way of making you feel welcome. They're organized. They, you know what your schedule is. You know what you're doing. Whatever the level, they take care of you. If it's a Wednesday night, they've got a cold case of beer when you get back at the dock. If it's at a Grand Prix level, they have decent places to stay, and you don't have to worry about getting your flights reimbursed or whatever it is. I mean, there's a whole range of levels depending on the kind of sailing you're doing, but the universal equanimity of like doing things and just treating people well. I mean, the sad thing that some boaters don't realize when they get into racing sailboats is that buying the boat's the cheap part. Racing, it's the expensive part. And unfortunately, those taking care of crew mean you're going to get good crew, and they're going to have good logistics so that the same team shows up all the time, because you're never going to win unless you have the same people on a consistent basis. So in the end, you got to treat them right.
Let's talk about the role of practicing with this crew in order to make them consistent. Hi, Mary.
One sec, Molly. The barmaid wanted me to point out, and she's writing me notes here, which is great. The number one rule, this goes to Ned's question, the number one rule to a one design fleet succeeding, make sure everybody knows rule number one. And this comes from a friend of
I know what it's for.
Dave's and mine and Mary's, and maybe some people who are on right now. Our buddy Will Harris, the hair explosion from Rochester. Rule number one is pretty simple: no assholes. So any one design fleet success is built around camaraderie, subtitles, I know, sorry. Camaraderie and people enjoying each other's company. And yeah, it can be competitive on the water, but hopefully you can all, go in at the end of the day and enjoy each other's company and ask questions and get feedback, and hopefully everybody's getting better. And at the end of the day, life would be a lot simpler if just everybody paid attention to rule number one. And if anybody out there ever feels like I've broken that rule, please don't mention it immediately, because I'm probably in a little bit of a snit.
But call me.
But call Mary. or come and ask me to buy them a drink because I've broken rule number one, and we can discuss it. And I promise
that's fantastic.
I will always buy you a drink and then tell you why I was probably wrong. Now, Mary, could you go please buy me a drink?
No, there's something else I wanted to add there, that you guys have talked a lot about skippers yelling or skippers doing the wrong thing. And I think it's important to remember that a lot of times the person who's got their hands on the wheel or hands on the tiller might be a little bit nervous. And so as a skipper, if you don't want to be tagged as like that guy, the bad guy, trying to use the right hand, the bad guy, the asshole, what you might want to say is, hey guys, I'm a little nervous right now, because we're all people out there on the boats. And so sometimes it doesn't matter what position you're in, but especially for the person who's driving the boat coming into this crazy situation at the mark rounding, rather than screaming at anybody else and saying, oh my God, you guys get your stuff together. It's not bad to put your hand up and go, I'm a little nervous right now. Can you give me a hand? So it's a good way to avoid that whole don't be an asshole thing. Like, hey, this is going to be a tough one. Everybody help me out. And it's amazing how much your team can rally around you. Now I'm going to go get Geoff a drink so he can keep talking.
What a good barmaid.
For the Viper sailors that are on the forum, that conversation has a really good way of centering me when I am crewing for Mary. When Mary says, hey, you know what? I'm a little nervous. Maybe explain it a little different way. That brings me back to center, and that'll be a good thing, I think, for skippers. Maybe it sort of brings a tactician who starts to get a little anxious and starts, yelling at the crew, hey, we need to do this, we need to do that, we're going to come in and do a right-hand turn here, blah, blah, blah. Just, if the skipper can turn and say, hey, you know what? Can we just calm it down a little bit? I'm feeling a little anxious. That's a really good way of bringing things back to a dull roar, and I think sort of bringing the whole team a little bit more together.
Do you have anything to add to that, Dave, before I move on?
I think you should move on, because I think Mary made a good point.
So what specific techniques can every crew member, regardless of their position, work on? What can we get better at?
Oh, Dave, did you just see Luann's comment? You need to look.
Is it a good idea to have a different outfit for each watch? Yes, Luann, it is.
Someone's about to get thrown under the bus here. Bring it on.
There needs to be a sense of fashion and decorum when you're in a miserable place. It's like, hey, look, you guys don't want to shave. Congratulations. I'm uncomfortable. I'm going to shave. And you can take a little grief from your team. That's just what I'm taking here on the side, but it's okay. I'm big. I can handle it. But back to the original question, Molly.
Real question.
Somebody had to come up with that.
We need to talk about nicknames.
We haven't gotten there quite yet. The issue about what generally, as you graduate, I call it kind of a graduation. So originally, when you get on a boat and you're crewing, especially on a bigger boat with a lot of people, and you're a little nervous, and you don't know exactly sure how your job works and all that stuff is, you tend to be a bit of an automatron. You kind of wait till somebody tells you what to do. And one of the big steps in graduating to being a good crew is being able to take the initiative and say, like, okay, look, there's the weather mark. I know what's coming next. We need this spinnaker thing, the big colorful sail. It's got to go up. And I know my job in this is I've got to go get, pull the tack line out, or, whatever my job is. So after a while, I don't need to be told what to do. I understand what's going on the race course, and I can do my job without being directed. And that's a big step, I think, in graduating up the crew ladder. The other thing that is totally critical is that on a sailboat, weight and weight placement are everything. And so as crew, no matter what job we have, whether we're trimming, whether we're in the pit, whether we're just floating in the middle of the boat, our weight is a critical part of the whole game plan. And we can all feel the boat, right? We can all feel, we want everybody to hike like fiends normally, right? When we're going upwind, that's great. And if you can hike that little bit extra hard, I can tell you, if you can make your boat go 1% faster, 6.06 knots instead of 6 knots, that's a minute around the race course. How many races have you lost by way more than a minute? So it is a sport again. So no pain, no gain. So, hiking hard is huge and really, really helps. And if you look at the top teams and you look at all the photographs of them, everybody is killing themselves. At the same time, there's a subtlety to it, so that you have to realize that, look, hey, if I'm hiking really hard and I get a lull and the boat goes dead flat, maybe I don't want to hike so hard. maybe I want to be relaxing my weight and leaning in and helping, because all boats need a certain amount of heel, and heel helps the driver keep the boat in the groove. So I've got to recognize, hey, this is a lull, so I need to slide my weight in. Maybe even slide it down to leeward if it's getting really light. Maybe even slide it down below if it's getting really, really ugly. But once you get into the game, you can be anywhere in the boat. You can feel a puff and you're hiking. You can feel a lull and you're coming down into the boat. So weight placement is a part of the game that no matter what skill set is involved and where you are on the boat, that you are a critical part of making the boat go, and it has a huge impact. So if somebody works really hard about doing what they can with their weight, their team and their skipper is going to love them.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe it's a good idea when you're supposed to be hiking to hike as if the photo boat is there. Because when I'm on the photo boat, people start hiking like champs every time we go past. So maybe that's it. Pretend like someone's taking.
If your hair's okay, and then go for the Superman thing, like I'm working on the thing. You haven't done it the whole rest of the race, but hey, the photo boat's there. Photo boat look is what you're after.
So let's see. It's about last call right now for this particular happy hour. So I want to just ask you guys. I think we should continue the conversation because we have so many topics yet to touch upon, but I don't really think that people want to stay with us for an hour and a half. So I think it's fair enough to wrap it up. But if you want to give, maybe we can start with Geoff this time. If you want to give 1 to 3 solid pieces of advice to someone who is trying to become a better crew member, what would they be?
I think the most important thing is to, I actually think the most important thing is to be open with what you want to get. Like, hey, if somebody were to walk up and say, hey, you know what, I'm really interested in going Viper sailing. And I say Viper because that's what my wife and I sail. Or somebody said, I'm really interested in getting on a good Wednesday night team so that I can learn more. I'm going to go out of my way to try and get them either on the Viper or get them hooked up with a good group of Wednesday night sailors that are going to be fun and just, sort of have an enjoyable experience. I think that the most important thing is being sort of friendly and communicative. And, one of the things about sailing is it can be a little bit daunting for new people to break in, and unfortunately that's just a reality. But I would love if more people would just sort of be open about what they want to get out of it. Hey, you know what? I really enjoy the idea of racing, and I'd like to get better at it. And that's one of the things that I really like about what SpinSheet does is with the crew listing parties. No subtle plug there, but that idea that we're just one big community and we're trying to enjoy getting out on the water. That's if you could be open and communicative, I think if you were to walk up to Dave or to me or to really anybody that you sort of see on the dock, and even if you've never met them before, just introduce yourself. I mean, when I was a little kid, I remember waking up for a Bermuda race, a Newport to Bermuda race, and my mom said, "Yup, Dad left. He went down to the marina and he's walking the docks and introducing himself to people because he wants to do the Bermuda race." Well, my dad sailed around the world to get to America. He's from Australia. He's pretty good, but nobody knew who he was. And that's how he got on his first Bermuda race ride in Newport. And I think that sort of openness is how you get involved and how you sort of get to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm. Dave, couple of things you'd like to impart about how to be a better crew member in general on a boat, whether you're experienced or not.
Well, I mean, the cool thing about it is as I kind of would extend my hands and welcome to everybody, it's a pretty cool sport. I've been lucky enough to do it for 30 years because my wife has a better job than I do, and I've been able to to fiddle. But the the reality of it is it's a sport that stays with you forever. And you can do it at a lot of different levels and all that, but it is a sport. So if you want to just kind of, if you want to do the social thing, that's fine. And the cruising half of our equation is all about the social thing. That's it's a lifestyle thing. But the racing thing is still as a sport, and so it takes all the things a normal sport does, which is, enthusiasm and the will to practice and the will to take responsibility and the want to grow and to do better. But you don't have to be any particular size, weight. I mean, sailing is one of the few things where I don't have to weigh 300 pounds and be able to bench press, 500. That's I can be any size or weight and be good at it. So it's a pretty cool game. And if we just recognize that it's a sport and it rewards the same things that every sport rewards, we'll go a long way.
Well, that's great. For those of you who might not know, David writes a regular column in SpinSheet called The Racer's Edge. It's sponsored by Quantum, of course. And in the current issue that's out on the street, which is still the March issue, there's a really good article. You might have seen it online if you didn't read it in print. I think it's 6 ways to be a great skipper. And not in the April issue, but in the May issue, there's going to be a follow-up to that on being a better crew. We always put those articles up on SpinSheet.com, but do look out for them in the next issues. And in the April issue, there are very good stories by both of these guys about various races they have done, including Geoff's experience with the Sail Newport virtual regatta last weekend, which consumed 6 hours of his day, I understand. And hey, thank you guys for sharing your knowledge. I look forward to doing this again. And it's been fun. So cheers.
Yeah.
See you next Friday.
Really appreciate it.
My URI friends.
This is going to be last call for everybody. I do want to just say thank you, everybody. I know it's probably been a pretty weird week for everybody, but I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're staying healthy. And we certainly do appreciate your time and participating with this. If you want to tip your bartender on the way out, I take Venmo and Apple Pay if you just want to.
Sweet.
But if you really do want to tip us, the best way to do that is to support SpinSheet and go to SpinSheet.com. Really read the digital issue from cover to cover. That really is the best way to do that. We basically make the advertisers happy by putting eyeballs into the magazine and onto the website. So do that. Make sure that you like our Facebook page and follow Instagram, YouTube, the whole spiel. And Molly?
One more thing.
Yeah.
Because our crew parties were canceled this year,
Right.
for obvious reasons, please make sure to check out our online crew finder. If you already have an account, make sure to go in there. It's updated with all of your current information. If you are logging days on the water, the Century Club, there's a new way of logging in on that online. And also the SpinSheet Racing Team. Go to our racing section on the website, click on SpinSheet Racing Team, and you'll see the new rules for this year. It's our 25-year anniversary, and you need to earn 25 points to be on the team and get your cool Team 1 Newport SpinSheet Racing Team shirt for 2020. So,
Cool. Very good, guys. Well, you know the old saying, you don't have to go home, you can't stay here, but I think everyone's probably home already. But thanks very much. Again, have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us. Stay safe, stay healthy, and join us next time.
cheers.
Bye.
Thanks, Greg.
Don't miss another SpinSheet video. Subscribe to our channel today.